Going on, No Nation? CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk here to bring you guys some breaking news. A pretty exciting Tuesday thus far for FSU as they landed 2 transfer portal commitments from some very, very important, I'm going to emphasize again, some very, very important and key positions on the football field. Before we get into it, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, go ahead and join the DoakTalk family if you have it. We're covering all things FSU from recruitment, high school to transfer portal, coaching changes, on-field stuff, interviews, you name it, we have it here at DoakTalk. So go ahead and hit this like button on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I stated, FSU has had a really big Tuesday thus far. Really great start to the week as it landed 2 commitments from the transfer portal. The first commitment we're going to talk about is Gunnar Hansen. Gunnar Hansen is the left tackle starter for Vanderbilt, SEC starter. Big time get from Mike Norvell and staff, including Coach Herb Hand and offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn. Once he entered the portal, it was a lot of, how can I put this, a lot of friction in regards to other teams trying to vie for a position. FSU ended up winning out after they got him on campus for an official visit. Just to give you guys some information on Gunnar, he's 6'5", 330 pounds. Kid is originally from Boca Raton, Florida, played high school football at St. Thomas Aquinas. You're talking about a starter. I mean, this guy is a definition of longevity, durability in the SEC starter. Has started over 30 career games for Vanderbilt, 27 at left tackle, 4 games at left guard, and 4 games at right tackle. So you see the starts, you see the experience. Has over 2,000 career snaps playing for the Vanderbilt Commodores. He against the as you guys know, Vanderbilt beat Bama this year, first time in program. I think it was the first time in program history, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't beaten a long damn time. Let's put it that way. Within that game, Gunnar won SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week and the Outland National Offensive Lineman for the Week during his dominant performance against the Bama Crimson Tide. He led the team with the best pass block grade. He did not allow a sack during that game or a hit on the quarterback. So really dynamic playmaker. This guy is graded out very well during his time at Vanderbilt. Like I stated, you have over 30 career starts at the SEC level. He has great size at 6'5", 330 pounds. He's an anchor. He's a physical blocker. He can block downhill in run game. He can move and stunt on twists, and he also is very good in pass pro. So I think Herb Hand did a very good job of recruiting this guy. He did state in his post official visit interview that he was, interested to see what type of development he could get from a guy like Herb Hand, who's been all over the place. Like I told you in my introductory video of Herb Hand, the guy is coached at Auburn, Texas, UCF, NFL, you name it. He has a very extensive resume in regards to developing offensive linemen and putting those guys out. Won a couple of Coaches of the Year award as well as far as being an offensive line guy. So he has a type too as far as the physical build that he's looking for. So you see 6'5", 330, your antenna should go up as you know this is a big kid, a physical kid that could help FSU instantly within the offensive line room. Could you get within the offensive line room? As you guys know, this was not to sugarcoat anything. This was the worst position on the football field for FSU by far, and probably one of the worst offensive lines I've seen at FSU during my time being a fan. So this is a great start in regards to that. I do feel like FSU may add some more coming soon with the plethora of guys that were visiting FSU, including some former players at UCF for Herb Hand. We'll get to those guys at a later date. But those guys have taken official visits to FSU as well, along with Arkansas. With the Arkansas Transfer Center, he took a visit this past weekend for FSU and wrapped up that visit and had some glowing reviews to say about FSU and Herb Hand and what he could possibly do as far as, turning the things around. And that offensive lineman is Addison Nichols. 6'5", 325 offensive lineman from Arkansas, who's in the transfer portal as well. So FSU was in play for a lot of offensive linemen within the transfer portal. Herb Hand understands the assignment, understands not just Herb, Mike Norvell. Hell, he's seen it. He's one who went out and hired Herb, so he understands the assignment as well as far as bringing in great guys to change that offensive line room. Because if the offensive line room was just average last year, we would have won a lot more games than we had. But since it was one of the worst in FSU history, one of the worst in college football, that trickles down to a 2-win type of season. So really big gift for FSU. Excited to see what else we could add to the offensive line. Now, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. for another key position that FSU was in dire need for, and that's defensive end. FSU lands commitment from James Williams, the 6'5", 250-pound transfer from Nebraska. Really huge gift for Mike Norvell, defensive coordinator Tony White, and of course, new defensive line coach Terrence Pot Roast Knighton. During his career, with the last 2 years during his career with Nebraska, James has had 7 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. This year specifically, he had 5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss in limited pass rush reps. He wasn't a full-time starter for Nebraska. Anything of those lines. He was a situational pass rusher. To be quite clear, he was a very effective pass rusher during those limited snaps. When I say very effective pass rusher, he was one of the most effective pass rushers in the country as far as the limited reps he was getting and the production he was getting within those reps. Just to give you guys some numbers in regards to that production, I want to give a shout out to Clay Fink, the 247 intern. He does a hell of a job on Twitter with bringing out stats and info from PFF. This is something that Clay ended up tweeting out. He was the most efficient pass. He is the most efficient pass rusher returning for the 2025 season. Out of 241 P4 edge players, James is the most efficient one with a 21.5% pass rush rate and also a 12.7 pass rush production per PFF. Both are tops in the nation for guys returning. So you factor that in as far as coming from Nebraska in a limited role, come to FSU to be the projected full-time starter. You're going to get more reps and more opportunities. The sky's the limit for James as far as what he could do on the field for FSU. He has a lot of potential. The reps are going to be there. The opportunity is going to be there. He's going to be able to get to the quarterback, do what he does best, and create havoc in the backfield and, get those sacks. And he does need to develop in certain areas. I want to see how he transitions to being a full-time starter and also just him translating to being a full-time defensive end as well, not just a pass rush specialist, something he alluded to that he wants to work on and get better at in his post-official visit interview for FSU. He said he wants to be, like I said, he's known for getting after the quarterback and being a pass rush specialist. But coming into this role, he wants to be more well-rounded and be a 3-down guy and be effective in the run game, pass rush, whatever it may be. Just be on the field on all 3 downs for a defensive end and just be effective on all 3 in those phases of the game, run game and pass game. So it's going to be really interesting to see what James comes in. Like I say, 6'5", 250. I think he could be a starter day one, come in and get in with Coach Storms and get built by Storms, add a little bit more muscle, and get Coach developed further as far as, being an every down type of defensive end that we need for FSU. I'm not saying he is Jared Verse, but just what we saw to Jared Verse as being a dominant run stopper and being a dominant pass rusher as well. I want to give a Terrence Knighton a big shout out to James as far as the relationship with James Williams. Those guys are really close. It was an interview that James Williams had in speaking about Coach Knighton and Pop Roast. And the kid was pretty much brought to tears, just talk about how he's like a father figure for him. He was the guy that actually brought him to Nebraska out of high school, recruited him and things like that. I think the kid ended up losing some family members that in the 2023 season. Was in a really dark space, and he gave props to Coach Knighton, Coach Pop Roast, for bringing him out that space and believing in him and always speaking light and encouraging him. So that's really good. You don't really see that too often. So once Coach Pot Roast was named the FSU defensive line coach, and James Williams entered the portal shortly after. People started connecting the dots as far as him possibly joining or reuniting rather with Tony White and Terrence Knighton in Tallahassee to be coached up by those guys. And lo and behold, it did happen. So FSU gets a pass rusher in James Williams. I think the same offensive line, we need to add more defensive line to the fold as well. And we also got great news earlier getting defensive tackle Daryl Jackson back. I think Daryl Jackson is a perfect fit for this scheme as far as being a nose tackle, a really aggressive guy. I think he can get coached up by Coach Knighton. Daryl Jackson was our best defensive lineman down the stretch of the season. He had a really good season for the 2024 Seminoles. Now, of course, everybody wants to go back to, he didn't have a great start of the season. Also, you have the best defensive line ever, the best defensive line of college football. All of the hype we were seeing coming into the season, those guys didn't live up to it. But like I said, just from an individual standpoint, Daryl Jackson had a pretty good year. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in this new scheme coming back, being a nose tackle. So that's a big get for Mike Norvell and staff as well. Like I said, we'll see what we add next. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what position or who out of the positions you feel like would be the next commit for FSU as a defensive end, offensive lineman, hell, receivers. You never know. Just let me know from the guys that's on campus taking visits to FSU. Who do you feel like would be the next one to go ahead and pop and commit to the Seminoles? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Go Noles.